company of journalists and do narrative well, we do storytelling well, we're very comfortable in the interviewing process. We don't do a slower, more thoughtful synthesis well, and we don't necessarily do brainstorming well, which was an epiphany that we... the idea of deferring judgment doesn't happen very often, and so that we need to learn not to jump to our own conclusions and solutions, but think a lot more about what we're hearing.
I think the way that the brainstorming session was set up here was a way to listen and to focus on what every person was saying rather than thinking about what your next idea was going to be, because you don't actually then take in everybody else's ideas. So I think it was a different approach.
The brainstorming I thought was interesting because we've all felt like, or at least I've felt like with the people I work with, that we've brainstormed. But actually having some framework, that there was actually rules for brainstorming, that kind of seemed counterintuitive to the creative process. But having those 5 or 6 kind of guidelines really helped make brainstorming make sense. It brought structure to it, but that actually made more creativity, which I think was a light bulb for me.
The part that's hard for me to understand how I can be better at it, but also how to encourage others to do this, is to defer judgment. I think that is the hardest part, because I know I want to be judgmental and everybody else wants to be judgmental, so how do you suspend that? That's hard.
We need to learn not to jump to our own conclusions and solutions, but think a lot more about what we're hearing.
I've heard of prototyping in the physical sense, of developing a thing, whether it's a widget, website, something, and then developing 3 versions of this physical thing. That's what, in my mind, was prototyping. But here is different. You're prototyping an experience, and it was just great to sort of act out things because it makes them more real for you. And that to me is just amazing, and to come up with a concept that is just kind of this intangible thing, and to draw a storyboard around that and to act it out, because then it's clear that you do that a couple of times, and even though we only did 1 iteration of it, it's clear that to be able to see how you can say, touch points 1 and 2 just doesn't fit right. Let's try it again and do it this way.
Maybe we'll get 5 adopters.
Actually, even within our prototyping yesterday, we still went too quickly to the product and didn't stay with the experience. So I think what we've got to try and do is, when we're prototyping, is prototype what the experience might be like, rather than trying to create a dummy up for a website or a dummy up for a printed product.
The fast prototyping is I think the best part that we can take from the 2-day experience.
Yeah, okay, we've done brainstorming. A lot of people in the room know about brainstorming. We can understand the concept of prioritization and synthesis, but actually relating that to the inputs, really, which is the observation, and then turning that into prototyping and several iterations of prototyping. So you don't produce one where people have to say, yes, I like it, no, I don't like it, and if they like you, they're not going to want to say they don't like it. Give them a choice so they can say, well, that one's better than that one. I mean, that concept, all really simple stuff, but powerful stuff in the context of everything else.